Okay, one of the things I want to address when we do our haul out is this thing here, which is the dripless shaft seal. So the way this works is this thing all the way in the back, that's the stern tube, and that goes out to the outside of the boat. Inside that is the shaft, which you can see here, running all the way through there, and it goes out and the propeller is attached to that. So to keep water from coming in the boat, it has this dripless shaft seal. This little black thing right there is called the bellows, and then this little thing right there, the black thing there, is a carbon stator, and then this thing right here is a stainless steel a disc or shaft or collar of some sort. The way it works is the bellows are compressed, and that puts some compression between this thing here, the stainless steel disc thing that's attached to the shaft, and the carbon stator, which is attached to the bellows. And between the two of those things is like a tight seal that water can't seep through. It's different than a traditional stuffing box, which has, instead of having all this stuff, it has a bronze lock nut and a thing that screws on there and you tighten it up, and it has packing material in it, and you're supposed to let it drip. This thing isn't going to drip. One of the problems I had with this when I first put the boat in the water, when we first bought it, was right down here, this hose that you see right here, that hose is plumbed into the raw water pump. So what it does is it pushes water down into that shaft seal, so the shaft seal never dries out, or it doesn't have air pockets that fill up in it. Well, that hose is attached to a barb. The barb is attached to a piece of plastic that's then screwed into the stator. Well, when I took this entire thing apart back when we first bought the boat, the piece of plastic that has the hose barb that's attached to the carbon stator popped out, and I wasn't sure if it was related to the threads being weak or whatever. So I ended up putting some 3M 5200 sealant on there and put it back together, and it seemed like it stayed. There was no drip or anything, never had a problem with it. But I'm still kind of skeptical of the whole thing anyway, and I want to replace this entire thing with a traditional stuffing box. So another thing that's funky about this thing is this hose that's plumbed into the raw water line is plumbed into the wrong place. So what should happen is this hose right here, which is plumbed into the raw water pump, should go into an anti-siphon loop, which prevents water from being coming out of here and entering the boat if there were ever like a siphon that got created or a leak that happened later down the line. But what they did instead of running this to its own siphon loop, they just plumbed it directly into, back here you can see, they plumbed it directly into this line right here, that T. That goes to, this side here goes to the raw water pump, this side goes to the siphon, and then it comes back and then goes into the exhaust elbow, which is inside the engine compartment just forward of that. So what that causes is, and I noticed this when I went to change the impeller, when I changed the impeller, water never stopped draining out of the impeller, even though the seacock was shut off. And the reason is because water was coming in here, going up into this T, not going up into the siphon, but instead going down to the impeller first, or to the raw water pump first. So that's a problem. You shouldn't have water that just leaks uncontrollably. If a hose breaks or something like that, it causes a problem. So my thought is I just want to get rid of this thing entirely. It's got some problems already. You can maybe see some rust starting to form around one of those hose clamps. That's really the wrong type of clamp, a hose clamp, to be put on those things anyway. So I'm just going to replace the entire thing with a traditional stuffing box.
It is Monday, August 7th, 7:30 a.m., and we are headed to Eastport Yacht Center just inside Back Creek and right around the corner from Arm Marina in Spa Creek. We're going to have them haul the boat out, paint the bottom, and wash and wax the hull. While they do that, I'm going to clean and paint the propeller and replace the shaft seal. This is the hull before they did the power wash. Overall, it's not too bad, but look at that propeller. It is horrible. and is desperately in need of cleaning. And here's the propeller after the power wash. I just have to sand the old paint off all the way down to the bare metal, and then spray paint it with some barnacle barrier. This is what it looks like all painted with new zinc anodes in place. Nice and clean, ready to go back in the water.
It's August 8th, Tuesday, and it's day 2 of the haul out. Yesterday, we brought the boat to Eastport Yacht Center from our marina, which is right around the corner from where we are. And they hauled us out, blocked us up, so now we're on the hard. And yesterday I spent time working on the propeller. The propeller was in pretty bad shape because I've never cleaned it since, it's been in the water, and it's been in now about 2.5 years. When we put it in the last time, the bottom had been painted and everything. I didn't do anything to the propeller because it still kind of had whatever coating it was on before, so I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit and didn't do anything to it. So I didn't touch it the entire time it was in the water. So unfortunately, it was in really bad shape with all kinds of growth and barnacles and everything on it. So I'm amazed that it was even still working. So lesson learned there is that over the next 2 years that this thing is in the water, I need to make sure that I go down at least a couple times a year and clean that propeller, because, or at least check on it and see if it's starting to get bad. When I put it in last time, it didn't have the coating on it. So what I put on it this time was, I don't have it with me here. What I put on it this time was a spray coating from Pettit called Barnacle Barrier or something like that. It's just a gray type of paint that goes on there. It's supposed to limit the growth of barnacles on the propeller. So we'll see if that works. What I'm going to have to do though is, in the meantime, over the next 2 years while it's in the water, I'm going to have to make sure that I'm diving on the prop and checking, making sure that it doesn't have a lot of growth on it. The hull itself was in really good shape. There was not a lot of growth on it, just the regular kind of growth, but not a ton of barnacles. So it was in fairly good shape. Even after they sprayed it, still quite a bit of paint left. And but it definitely needs, touched up. So that's what they're going to do here. Last time I did the paint, or I should say that my wife and I did the paint on the boat intentionally. That because my wife, she did most actually the painting. I did the sanding and she painted it. And she said never again. So we're having them do the paint part this time. So they're going to sand and paint it while we're out. What I did yesterday is I fixed the prop. What I'm going to do today's Tuesday, so it's day 2 of the haul out, is I'm going to change the shaft seal. So right now it has a dripless shaft from dripless shaft seal from PYI on there, or PSI or PYI or something like that. But I'm going to change that entirely out and get a regular shaft seal. And what I got, I ordered this in the mail, got this. This is one from the Buck Algonquin shaft seal. So this is going to go on next. I upgraded the hose clamps you see here. It came with hose clamps that were just a regular perforated type hose clamp. They were stainless steel, but it's not recommended actually for this application. So I'm surprised they actually come with that. But what I did is I upgraded it to these non-perforated hose clamps that don't have the little perforations on the inside. So those are supposed to be a little bit more, a little stronger than the perforated type. They're not as strong as T-bolt hose clamps. With the T-bolt hose clamps are nice, but they're expensive. These clamps here, they cost $14 each. The T-bolt hose clamps cost somewhere around like $25 each for this size. So that would have been $100 worth of hose clamps. This piece here, relatively inexpensive. I think I picked it up for $150 or something like that. It was a good price, so I went ahead and got it. Cheaper than I think, or almost cheaper than the part I would have had to replace on the dripless. So the dripless shaft seal had a stator, and I'll show you that when I take it apart. But that would have had to been replaced, and I think it was by itself like $125. So I think that was about the same price, somewhere around $125, $150. The second thing I got is that kind of seal. You have to put this packing in there. So I got this type of packing here. It's called GFO, and this is apparently like the latest greatest super type of packing. So I'm going to try that out. It's supposed to they call it virtually dripless, but they say that you don't want to really make it totally dripless by tightening it so much that it doesn't drip. You still want it to drip a little bit, but it doesn't have to drip as much as traditional flax type packing and things like that. So I'm going to try that out. I'm going to take off the old dripless, put this new one on, and put the packing in, see how that goes. Now, earlier on, one of the things that I was kind of worried about was when we did the big trip, on one of the days, there was a oil that had sprayed out from what looked like the rear main seal of the gearbox or transmission. So I thought maybe that was going bad, which if that goes bad, it usually means you have a shaft alignment issue. The shaft is vibrating or something causing, that seal to go bad. It only did it once though. So I checked the cutlass bearing when they hauled us out, and the cutlass bearing is perfect, which was good because I was kind of half expecting to have, the cutlass bearing be bad and all this other stuff related to shaft alignment. But the cutlass bearing was great, and so I don't have to do anything with it. My guess though is that the fouled prop caused the shaft to vibrate at higher RPMs, which caused the shaft seal to leak. So my guess or hope is that the shaft seal doesn't need replaced. If I clean the prop, the cutlass bearing's in good shape, and then I'll just go ahead and go with what I got now and not change that seal. I may try to look at the seal once I get it apart if I can get that deep into it. But even if I do need to replace the seal, it's going to be much easier to do it with a traditional stuffing box than the dripless, because the dripless I won't be able to slide the shaft back while it's in the water to change it. But with this, I'll be able to slide the shaft back enough that I could change it if I needed to while it's in the water. So for today, I'm just going to work on getting that done, and then we should be ready to put back in. I have to wait until they sand and paint it. So apparently they're supposed to start sanding it today, and they may paint it tomorrow or something like that. But they said they should be done Wednesday or Thursday, and today's Tuesday. So we'll see how that schedule holds up. So it's kind of tight down in here, but basically first step that has to happen today is this coupling. That's got to come off. So I gotta unhook the bolts. You can see there are a couple bolts down right in here that hold the shaft onto the gearbox. So I gotta take those out, and then this whole thing basically has to come off. So I'm gonna be working on doing that. Once that's off, then the actual shaft seal, which is right down in that area right there, that's going to come off, and I'll put the new stuff on after that. Okay, so this is the dripless shaft seal that I removed. So this part here is called the bellows. This is that carbon stator, and this is the stainless steel disc. This part here is attached to the stern tube that goes through the hull. This part here, this is where I had a problem with it the first time. This little piece right here is plastic, and then it's got this little metal insert that screws into it. This plastic piece threads into the carbon stator. So what I had happen before we launched the boat the first time is I took this off to clean this up, tightened it back up, and then this popped off. So I put some 5200 in on the threads, screwed it back down, and hoped that it stayed together. The way this works is this thing here, the stainless steel, attached to the shaft with a series of set screws in this side and this side, and you put 2 screws in each one to lock them in there, and then it sits up flush against the carbon stator. And then you compress the bellows, so this right here has pressure against here, and it doesn't let any water through, but it allows the shaft to turn like that, and this stays where it is. And then you can kind of see from this, water wasn't dripping out of it, but you can see water was getting through there enough that it's causing these to rust, which is bad because you don't want these to break. So so it's a good thing I did change that out, and I got that new shaft seal on there, because this thing is definitely on its last leg. This is the mating surface, so that sat up against there, and you can see it's, for some reason, it's got all kinds of issues along here. When I first put it together, it still had that, but I didn't want to use the other side because the other side looks like somebody has hit it with a hammer or something, because it's got all kinds of little dings on it, and I didn't think was true enough to sit against the carbon stator. So either way, I'm glad I got rid of that. That's one less complication to have in the whole system, and so far I think we'll be happy with the conventional shaft seal.
And now the new seal is in place. No issues putting that in. Everything went together pretty easily, and I think this will end up being a better option, better than the dripless that was falling apart.
We're at the marina, Eastport Yacht Center, getting ready to launch the boat. Paint is done, and all the prop work and stuff that I was working on, that's all done. So here in the next 15-20 minutes or so, we'll have the boat loaded up there and put it in the water. We just launched the boat, and we came out. The marina we were at is back there behind me, right over there. And so we got the sails up. It's Friday, so we launched on Monday. Today is Friday, and it's earlier in the morning. It's 10:45, 11 o'clock. We're supposed to launch at 10, so we got out of there right about 10. And so now I think it's about 10:45 or so. So winds today, not too bad. We got 8 knots gusting till 10-15 or so when we came out. So that's what we have right now. 8 knots. I only got the main up and then the staysail up right now because it was gusting a minute ago. So I may throw out the Genoa as well. But as far as the engine starting, everything seemed to the engine started fine, but the propeller, the shaft seal, everything was fine. There were no leaks when I started it, or when it went in the water. When the shaft is moving, it's supposed to drip like 1 drip every 6 seconds, or there's some formula for that. This particular packing stuffing that I use for this, the GFO packing, is they call quote dripless, which means that it doesn't have to drip as much as regular flax stuffing. Right now it's on there tight enough that there were no drips at all while it was moving. So I'll either have to adjust it and loosen that up a little bit, or let it run a little bit and let it get settled in, and then see if it starts to drip while it's running. So ideally what you want is no drips while it's not moving, and a small amount of drips while it is moving. So we'll have to kind of fine tune that over the next couple weeks or so. But everything seems to be working. Sails are up. Nice day out today on the Chesapeake Bay, and that is the end of our haul out. And so we'll do that again in another 2 years. One thing that I want to make sure that I do within the next 2 years is I definitely need to make sure that I get down there and clean that propeller, because that was like killing us in terms of like speed and everything. And just even coming out here today, just with the engine not like at a high RPM, so like 2,000 RPM or so, we were doing 4, almost 5 knots with a clean hull and clean propeller. So thing to note there: clean your propeller.